to be getting into action in round number 1. We have Tyler Pham going up against Ben K in the feature match area. And this is that matchup that you were talking about, Frenchie. A deck that we don't normally see too much of, but on the opposite side, something people probably see too much of if they're playing Arena.
Yeah, red deck wins. Good old red. Dropping the green from Gruul just to be even cleaner with the mana, have a little more burn, a little more prowess creatures, kind of that focus. As well as, of course, you know, the mouse package is dominating multiple formats.
So we'll have to see if Ben's mice are going to line up well against what Tyler's going to be trying to cheat into play. So the Smuggler Surprise deck does have its namesake card in Smuggler Surprise, which will basically kind of show and tell something into play, but the Gruul decks have a bunch of different threats that they could potentially be bringing in.
Yeah, there's so many fun things. Obviously, the primary line that a lot of folks look at when they see the Smuggler Surprise deck is Terror of the Peaks and Calamity. The two of them entering is just basically a one-shot kill. But yeah, other than that, it's, you know, a lot of standard fare, really powerful cards with great enters, triggers, big creatures doing a lot of cool stuff. I think there's like... I'm not 100% sure what is in Tyler's list, but I know some folks have cards like, what's that, Vaultborn Tyrant, and there's also some of the earlier creatures on the curve too include Castle Trailblazer, which is a really powerful draw engine, helps ramp you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and as we can see on the screen right now, there's that namesake card, Smuggler Surprise, one of those spree cards, so it has a couple of different modes. Doesn't always have to put those creatures in from your hand onto the battlefield, has a little bit of protection if you've been able to cast them naturally. We sometimes wind up seeing some Llanowar Elves in this list as well. It's just a way to get it out as soon as possible, and we're going to get a chance to see what both of these players are up to, because it looks like these players have resolved their mulligans and are off to the gates with Tyler going first.
Yeah, easy tap land and then easy mouse. It's, you know, what else do both of these two decks want to do? Get the tap land out of the way early, probably play down a good old Beanstalk. That one's definitely a card we saw at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, so this is, I guess this is kind of in the deck because if you're already playing things that you want to be cheating into play, if you have to hard cast them, you're probably going to wind up having them trigger your Beanstalk anyway.
Exactly. And we have the classic move of turn 2 second mouse and swing in right away. But that is being faced with a double Beanstalk, so we do have a lot of card draw on Tyler's side, but Ben's looking to try and go under whatever big play Tyler's setting up for.
Yeah, we've kind of seen this at the Pro Tour as well, as these Beanstalk decks are a little more vulnerable to the red aggressive decks, because if there's like a Manifold Mouse or like a pair of Monstrous Rages here, Tyler's almost dead.
Yeah, and looks like both players are being a little bit more patient here. Ben's, if he has some spells to be able to sling and try and get some additional damage, he's kind of holding them back, making sure that he can get a more explosive turn later on down the line, especially when we don't have any mana up on Tyler's side, since he was presenting possibly a Torch the Tower, which we see he did just draw one as well.
I don't know. Yeah, Ben opting at the end of our second main phase there, plays the Higher Claw and just decides to activate it, putting a +1/+1 counter on it, potentially setting it up to be protected by some sort of spell on the next turn. But we do see in Tyler's hand, we saw, like you said, that copy of Torch the Tower, but also a Carnosaur.
Yes.
The best cards.
Yeah, Carnosaur's a really good one to cheat into play, since, you know, Cascade's a great mechanic, but, you know, you can't have the thing come into play and then get the Cascade trigger. Discover lets you do that just when it enters, so that's really nice. It looks like we did get a Torch on the Heartfire Hero, and we are going to be discarding this Carnosaur to be able to get rid of the Heartfire Hero, so pretty nice little cleanup for Tyler. Coming out of this at, you know, 14 health, not too bad. We do have a 1/2 Hired Claw that could cause some problems, and maybe is Ben flooding? No, it looks like there's some action in hand. He's just deploying slowly to make sure he doesn't get completely blown out.
Yeah, that Torch the Tower also key, because it means the Heartfire Hero is not going to be dealing any damage on the way out the door, although it was only 1 power. Ben looks like he was setting up a play to get to this point in time, but the double removal spell may have slowed things down a little bit. I mean, with the intervention of the creature lands in the red deck as well, you're not really hurting if you accidentally draw too much mana, because, well, it's actually going to be a mouse itself anyway.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think one of the biggest things about just playing strictly red means that you get to add to your mouse package by playing a full playset of Soul Stones, possibly, and, you know, giving your Vigilant mouse double strike and possibly trample is quite awesome. We have a second Hired Claw coming down too, so that's going to be a little extra damage pumped through as well. So we are currently swinging for a total of, we have 2 so far from the burn damage. We are pumping the Hired Claw, so it is going to be another 3, so I believe we're at 9.
Oh, and then there's a Monstrous Rage to follow that up, so it's going to be another 3, so down to 6. And that was that explosive turn that Ben was holding back for against those removal spells. With those mice, we probably would have had Tyler close to dead, if not already dead.
Yep.
But now Tyler's kind of on like, all right, Smuggler Surprise blockers, hopefully 2 of them.
Well, we need one more land because Smuggler Surprise, I believe, is 6 mana.
Yeah.
So right now we are just trying to get some sort of stabilizing play, and it looks like we do have it in an impended Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. It will take out the bigger Hired Claw, as well as give a couple of cards to Tyler as well to hopefully find another removal spell for the Hired Claw.
Oh, this is sick. I love myself an Overlord of the Inferno Titan. I'm glad that this deck is finding a spot for it to be played, but looks like Tyler's going to be nerfing down the smaller of the Hired Claw. Oh, the Hired Claw has 2 counters, and then... No, it's...
Oh, right,
yeah,
it's
the roll
5.
token,
Yes,
so it's 5.
Yeah, so it has to do that.
All right, now Tyler's just basically pray there's no more pump spell from the red deck or like a burst lightning.
No, because we're just going to get pumped up with combat. And shows the burst light. Cool. So, classic Beanstalk versus a red deck. They're just gonna go under real quick. Can't really assemble the final win condition that a lot of these Beanstalk decks are trying to do on like turn 6, turn 7. Ben was able to very cleanly and patiently play his cards to be able to, close the game before a bunch of random crap comes out of Tyler's hand and just shoots him in the face.
Yeah, and so this Gruul Smuggler's Copter deck, Smuggler's Surprise deck, I'm still in Pioneer mode, even though we're on Standard here. The Smuggler's Surprise deck is going to basically, like you said, going to be playing the role of like the Beanstalk control deck in this matchup, only its win condition isn't going to be Zern Overlords. It's going to wind up being, well, I guess, an Overlord, but also putting down some bigger threats from the Gruul side of things. How though, now that we're in the sideboard games, we do know that green and red don't have the same access to like Sunfall and Deadly Cover-Up and those board wipes that the other versions do.
Pyroclasm, which comes down super early and can typically pick off the first couple creatures and a nice little 2-for-1 for 2 mana while you're assembling the rest of your ramp engine. Can't complain about that. I'm sure Tyler has a couple on the board, as well as possibly some other sweepers that deal, hopefully, 2, 3 damage. Is there 4 damage sweeper in the format? I don't think so.
In red, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like the black one that has Descend or whatever that the Golgari Graveyard deck was playing. But that's like the only one I could think of that gets you to like the language territory.
Yeah.
On the flip side for Ben, the red deck obviously going to be going pretty fast in this matchup. A lot of the sideboard cards for the red deck are to give it a little bit of extra resilience or a little bit more reach. I know that we wind up having things like Urabras Fords and things like that. I'm assuming that Ben just wants to go under the Beanstalks as much as possible in this matchup.
Yeah, I can see probably also just knowing that some of the creatures in a Smuggler Surprise deck can gain life, such as the Vaultborn Tyrant. I can definitely see an emphasis on trying to make sure we turn off life gain, whether that's from, say, a Sunspine Link, which is amazing in this matchup with only a 2-color deck across from you, but with how many good dual lands in Standard, typically people are pretty greedy, so that should be pretty nice. And of course, everyone's favorite, deal a couple damage to your Screaming Nemesis and shut off your life gain forever.
So shutting off the life gain is an angle of attack that Ben is probably going to want to employ in this matchup. Being on the draw again, didn't really hinder Ben last game, so I don't think that's going to be too much of a factor right here. And Ben also seemed to be playing pretty heads up in the fact that Tyler's deck, being a red deck, does have a lot of incidental removal spells and ways to burn out his creatures. So being able to have one of those creature-heavy hands as opposed to one of those pump spell-heavy hands may be where Ben is looking if we wind up going to resolving a mulligan.
Yeah. Honestly, it's also trying to figure out what Tyler is going to be trying to do here, whether it's going to be trying to blow out a single big creature or try and be able to get a bunch of small creatures with this sweeper. These opening hands are honestly going to be really telling for the entire game, because I think for both players, their opener is 100% the decider. You need those 7 cards, or hopefully, if you don't mulligan, it will be 7. Those cards are really going to need to line up well into what your opponent's also going to be bringing, so it's a lot of guessing back and forth.
It's like Cajun fried chicken.
We'll end up seeing what those cards in hand are going to be here as both players cut each other's decks, and we're going to be taking a look at the top 7 to see if that is going to be what they want to keep. Reminder that Tyler was on the play in game number 1, but did lose, so game number 2, Tyler will also still be on the play. Taking a look at hand here, well, there's that Vaultborn Tyrant that we were talking about before.
Brother's End, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, Brotherhood's End isn't one of those 3 damage spells. But then we also wind up having a couple of lands, a Torch the Tower, a land or elf. Is that 1 land? Ooh, Tyler has to ship the 1 lander back.
Yeah, it was also a tap land too, so just all of the worst things that could possibly be, especially the ramp deck that really wants to get out to 6 mana to do their big combo turn.
Ben, in the meantime, though, is just keeping 7, keeping them face down. Doesn't want to let us know what's going on, but Tyler probably doesn't want to find out if Ben is keeping a 7 and he's mulling it down to 6. But from the Smuggler's surprise deck, I mean, we saw what that hand looked like. With 1 or 2 more lands, is that a keep?
Honestly, I think that's a snap keep even with 2 lands, because you have the elf. Hopefully it doesn't get killed here. And then you can, the 2 lands plus the elf can hopefully guarantee you playing the Brotherhood's End at a timely turn, even though you are killing one of your mana sources at the same time. Blowing out multiple creatures on Ben's side is going to be a little too impactful to not end up doing. We do have a keep of a 6, and there's the namesake card Smuggler Surprise in hand with the Llanowar Elf.
Yep, looks like there's 1 other card in there as well as 2 additional lands, but Tyler's just going to wind up playing the elf, passing the turn. Ben's going to start off with a Hired Claw this time around instead of the mouse package and send it back to Tyler's side, but no 3 mana plays from Tyler. It looks like there's a pretty card in Tyler's hand. Can't quite make that one out. Might be an Overlord.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it might be a Boiler Builders. I believe he has one of the nice art ones, so he might have been lucky and grabbed it.
Love this card.
New card.
Is this one of the funky new goblins that has all that fun stuff? So we are starting our engines here, so that's going to help us. It is, I believe, I believe it is the Burnout Bastronaut. So this one starts your engines. It has 1/1 menace, and when you have max speed, it gets double strike. I believe it's this guy, which is honestly pretty sick. Like, and it also can just, you can just put a bunch of mana into it to give it +1/+0, especially with that double strike is going to get really big really quick, and we're already at 2 speed.
Yeah, and Menace is going to be pretty powerful as well, because Tyler's deck doesn't exactly present a lot of blockers. It does have this Overlord of the Boiler Builders that is going to wind up taking out this Hired Claw, but this Burnout Bastronaut we saw in the draft portion of the portal.
Yeah.
Having 2 of these is massive.
Yeah, this isn't fun. We're going to be swinging in for a minimum of 4 damage in a couple of turns, and yeah, especially with though we are already at 4 mana, so hopefully Tyler can in a couple turns be able to actually assemble some sort of powerful Smuggler Surprise. We saw a lot of removal and the elf with the surprise in hand and some lands, so we don't have any big hits yet, but hopefully we do draw into a couple.
Now, unfortunately, our biggest hit right now is on the battlefield already in that Overlord of the Boiler Builders that had to get played out for a removal spell. Now Ben's going to swing in. That's going to up the speed to 3 1/3 Burnout Bastronaut. All right, so next turn, Ben is already going to be able to present 3 double striking menace creatures on the battlefield. Oh, and a Manifold Mouse that could just find spells off the top of his deck.
Yeah, no big deal. And especially if Ben ended up holding on to a direct damage burn spell that can go face, we're going to turn on speed before combat.
Ooh, there's a Terror of the Peaks coming out here from the side of Tyler's deck. I'm not entirely sure if this is going to be good enough in and of itself to kind of prevent anything, but any follow-up, if Tyler can live, is definitely going to start dealing some damage.
Yeah, I mean it's going to block the block the Challenger. It's kind of the only thing it can do.
Yes, it can't block the Menace Goblins, unfortunately.
Yeah. So yep. He's going in with all the idiots. See which one's gonna end up getting damage.
And this is like almost a force block, right? Because if there's any number of like monstrous rages or anything, Tyler could just be dead.
Yeah. I mean, this is any red deck is going to force you to guess that lethal is being presented by the time you hit turn 4.
And like worst case scenario, if Ben has Stone Cold Nothing, which he does not, there's a lightning strike coming out here. There's always the opportunity to just pump up these burnout Bastronauts as well. It only costs 2 generic mana to do so.
Yeah, and so in order to target the Terror of the Peaks, we did have to take 3 damage, but that's A-okay. We now have max speed. It looks like Tyler is at 11 from taking those additional 3.
Yep.
And looks like we have Surprise and Torch the Tower in hand. So while we will be able to take out one of these now double strikers, we can't take out both. I guess it might... Yeah, the Smuggler Surprise is a little awkward here because we can't really do the first and second mode this turn. We're going to have to wait till 8 mana. We only have 6 to be able to do the big splashy play. Obviously don't have the ability to do so.
There's no surprise to the Smuggler.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a surprise off the top of... Oh, that's a surprise that Tyler didn't want to see.
Nah, that's pretty solid there. Screaming Nemesis coming down. Represents 3 haste damage. There's 6 damage coming in from these 1/1 double strikers.
Yeah, so we're going to 2 here. Granted, Ben is tapped out. We know that we're going to get at least 1 more turn, but good lord, we are risking going to 2.
I mean, we have a Torch the Tower in hand, so we can torch a Goblin. That'll give us 7 damage on the battlefield, going down to 4. We could block the Screaming Nemesis. We'll take 1 in that process, not be able to gain life anymore, but be at 2 higher health at 6.
I will allow it.
Yeah. I think there's actually... It's pretty reasonable here. Tyler's kind of too much on the back foot to hold on to a big Smuggler Surprise. I think probably on end step, he's just going to use the first mode to mill 4 cards and try and find a creature that can hopefully clean up the board. We are going to have the Boiler Bill just come off of Impending next turn, so that's going to be really nice. We will be able to, present a second blocker to get in the way of these 1/1s, but it might be too little too late.
Yeah, and right now, too, if we deal with one of these 1/1s, we're going to bargain and get rid of the Screaming Nemesis?
Okay, so you scry before I declare.
That's massive.
That, I think we were expecting that. And I think if I knew the art correctly, that was a Vaultborn Tyrant on top, which if Ben goes face... Unfortunately, we're not going to gain that life.
No.
Nor will we even have the mana to do so because we don't even have the we don't have the land in hand to play it.
And the thing is, too, with the Screaming Nemesis, it doesn't care about being exiled at this point because the clause is when Screaming Nemesis takes damage, not when it dies. So any damage possible is going to be putting that clause down onto Tyler, as there's the good old token that we've had made by our good friend Kevin Duda, and the Screaming Nemesis preventing the life gain. Not only that, but now Tyler's also down to 2 just from these attacks.
Yeah, it looks like
it was 6.
It looks like we are using Smuggler Surprise to just put the Vaultborn Tyrant in play to draw another card, but no life gain trigger means we're just dead on the crack pad.
Yeah, I think we are, right? Because these things all have menace, and there's the handshake. Tyler's going to go down. Ben is going to take the game here. A bunch of big old fatty creatures, not good enough for a bunch of little mice, and I guess their new best friend goblins.
Also, don't forget about the Soulstone Sanctuary. We might not have animated this game, but definitely one of the mouse friends.
Don't look at the mouse. It's a mouse, it's a lizard, it's a goblin, and it can still cut a tomato.
Yep. It can do all.